outside of that, are you going to get to Charlie Baker and the transfer limitations? I know that's very much kind of on our plate.
No, bring it up. Go ahead.
Okay, because that would be nice here. Charlie Baker, and this would normally not be off the radar, but on today we'll make an exception, has said that he is not in favor of federal laws or rules that would put new limitations on transferring between schools. He talked with ESPN today, did about an hour-long interview, and this comes courtesy of Dan Murphy, as there's been a lot of discussion, obviously, about the rosters and the allowance of transfers and wanting to have some stability and all those types of things. But Baker said, I've had conversations with a bunch of coaches who didn't walk out on their contracts. One of the things I hear from kids when I talk to them about this issue is coaches walk out on their contracts. What about us? He says that the rate of transfers reflects a larger trend in general, that it's not just like football players, for example, but in general, college students are changing schools more frequently, which I don't know. I don't have a kid, much less a college-age kid. I don't know if y'all know anybody that's run into that, if it's more common now than it was before. But he cited that as part of his argument. Do they transfer more than their peers who aren't student athletes? No, though, is what he said. Do they transfer more than 10 years ago? Yes, but not more than their counterparts who don't play football or baseball or softball. They actually transfer less, Baker said, than students who aren't student athletes. And kids just transfer more because they have more info, more data, and they're more impatient about a lot of things. So he is not for legislation that would limit transfers. And so what do you guys think about that? Because I know we've touched on I'm not crazy about guys being on average, it feels like, and I know this is a little bit of hyperbole, but just in the headlines that we've read over the last month, they're third schools. Mm-hmm. I mean, at least multiple times.
There was another one over the weekend.
And so I don't love that, but I'm also not that guy or girl and making those decisions, which could be the best thing for me, which you hope that's what they are. But yeah, it doesn't sound like Charlie Baker's going to be of any help either. So that's just going to be the way that it is. It sounds like
it was the kid that committed to Arizona, had been at Louisville, and also was a 4-star high school player who had been at A&M. And then over the weekend committed to Arizona. Shear even had something that said like, oh, in the middle of all the other stuff going on, this happened. And so the average, again, looks like they're, I'm not saying that's the average, but it does seem like there's about 3. Well, is there a difference between students who are not on scholarship leaving compared to players who are on scholarship leaving? Is there anything to bring up there?
No.
What do you mean?
No, I'm just bringing up a couple of examples.
Not to me. Look, I don't think there should be federal regulations on any of this. I think that, again, like, if this is Charlie Baker stepping towards the, like, this is my first thing. Like, maybe you should collective bargain some of these things and have contracts, and that way the movement is slowed a little bit. Because one of the reasons the movement is so frequent is that you have no guarantees where you are, and somebody can always come in with a better offer. So there's no governing that. Like, that's what needs to be governed. And I agree with everything he said there. I also don't think. If your head coach leaves, I understand. You want to go play for that head coach. I get it. If a coordinator leaves or a position coach leaves, unless the coordinator coming in is changing the system and you don't fit at all, then I don't agree with that because, again, I've said this many times on the show, that's how coaching works.
But you can get around all of that. Personal reasons.
Yeah.
Mental health. A grandmother that's ill.
Well,
there are, and I'm not making light of that, but you can come up with numerous reasons other than the fact that if your coach leaves or you're not getting along or you're not getting enough playing time.
Yeah, but it all revolves around that one question. Coaches do it, why can't we? I mean, that's the one question that nobody can answer.
By the way, and Baylor got a commitment after Kapilovic was signed as the offensive line coach and was very much involved in 2 transfer offensive linemen coming. So they can't transfer now, but all of a sudden you could go through your entire spring. Those 2, maybe 3 of them are starters, and they leave because Kapilovic left this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sorry, Dave Aranda, but you can't have it both ways. You can't have it where it's set up just for the coach to have it perfect or the kids to have it perfect. You can't have it one or the other. You got to find the middle ground. And so coaches want freedom of movement. Players get freedom of movement. I think it's pretty simple. I don't love it. I don't love guys, like I said, being on their 3rd and 4th teams necessarily. But I also don't love the alternative, which is not allowing them to transfer at all like it used to be.
What about giving people their money after the semester? They could never do that, but would that solve any of the problems?
No.
Why not?
No,
Because I don't think it's always about money.
I don't think it's always about money. I think sometimes it's about other things.
okay.
I think it's about playing time. I think it's about wanting to actually, like you say, mental health. And I think that's actually valid in some cases. I think that's valid that you want to get closer to home. I think it's valid that maybe you want to go move to the school where your future wife is. And so there's a lot more things than just NIL money out there. But I just thought that was interesting from him. I don't know that was ever a raging topic by any means of, getting to a point where we have these big transfer type of guardrails the way that you want to try and have them in other areas. But he's saying he's not for it. So it doesn't seem like there's a lot of momentum behind anything action-wise.
There is a segment that when coaches leave that thing, well, coaches get to leave whenever they want, but isn't that their profession? And until players sign contracts or have some sort of union or whatever, that they really aren't professionals? Is there an argument there that coaches are leaving because they're furthering their career, they're professionals?
Yeah, but those arguments are starting to go out the window based on everything going on right now.
I'm not saying the argument's going out the window. Yeah. It's obvious. But coaches get to leave whenever they want, but they also get fired whenever they want. I don't know how many of the athletes get fired.
I feel like the scales have been tilted towards the coaches and the ADs and the presidents this entire time, and then it's just hard for people to wrap their heads around, like, maybe the players having the ability to, like, be closer to home without having to jump through guardrails and lose years of eligibility for nothing money-wise. I mean, so... I think that you can probably find a better way to do it all the way around, but limiting athletes and not limiting those who are under contract, you know what, that begs the question, then put them under contract. Oh, wait, they don't want to do that either, though, do they?
Yeah. Who, the players?
No, the schools don't want to do that. No. So they want to limit them on transferring potentially, but the way to fix that is to put them. Well, we don't want to put them under contract though.
Yeah,
so then what are they supposed to do?
Too. Kim Coulter, my God, is a significant NIL donor. I couldn't be any stronger against this when the conversation.
I can only imagine the NIL donor part of it. Like, I don't know what to tell folks like you because I can't imagine the level of frustration there is. And I'm just a fan. I just would like to know selfishly of just who's on my team and, like, be able to, in my mind, plan around, well, that junior running back's going to be around next year most likely, and then just in my head play around like we all do.
Oh, yeah.
But we can't even do that anymore, and that's fine. That's fine, but I'm not donating my money. You are, thousands of others are, to retain player A for a year, and you, I'm sure, wish you could ink a 3-year deal and just be done with it, right? But instead, you've got to do the each year-by-year type of a thing, and then the entire time have to ward off any outside interest that could pop up or in the DMs or whatever. So yeah, I can only imagine that battle that you're fighting and how frustrating that could be for sure.
And Kim, you have a potty mouth.